All right, we're live.
Amazing.
Yay. So today I'm speaking with Tatiana Simone. She's the Heartbreak Doula. She's an LA based practitioner who helps women through heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we'll talk about all of the wonderful work that you do because heartbreak is really, it can really weigh you down. And it's something that a lot of us have gone through, and it can be really helpful to have someone to help you through that. So we'll talk about all of those wonderful things. In the meantime, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Kat with Rebloom Room, and here we talk about ways to bring more joy into our lives, whether it's through radical self care, international travel and retreats, or any other way that we can find dance, movement, delicious food, all of that stuff. Just ways to bring more joy into our lives. So, with that, let's get into it. Um, so, tell us, just maybe give us an introduction, and maybe tell us what prompted you to become the heartbreak doula.
Yes, so I love that question. So I support women as a heartbreak doula. I support women to heal their hearts, reclaim their power, and transform from wounded to wise after a relationship ends. So whether that's just a normal romantic relationship or a marriage, I support women after that transition because it's a huge life transition that I don't think our society really acknowledges as a transition. Your whole life can just transform in unexpected ways, whether that's like your finances, your friend group, your mental health. There's so many things that can be impacted after a relationship ends, and so I help women with that transition. And I came to this journey as the heartbreak doula after my own experience with heartbreak. I was in a relationship for 5 years and I thought that it was going to be it. We were talking about marriage and in the process of buying a house and all of these things. And when the relationship ended abruptly, seemingly abruptly at that time, my whole world turned upside down. And I honestly did not think I was going to make it through. Everything in my life changed. I found myself homeless. All of my friend groups were magically gone because we were so interlinked together. I just had hit the hardest rock bottom ever possible. And I did not know how I was going to make it through. And I always said, like, if I can help one person not feel the deep pain that I feel, or at least help them on their journey of experiencing that excruciating pain, then I feel like my journey would be worth it. And I learned a lot in that process, and I through that process, I actually connected to the deepest liberation that I've ever experienced. I learned to love myself in a real and honest, genuine way. I learned actually what I want in relationships and what I don't want in relationships. I learned so much about myself that now I share that wisdom with women so that they can use that journey of hitting rock bottom or having a relationship that they really thought was going to last long term. They can use that experience and transform heartache into deep wisdom that helps them in their life. So that's how the journey started for me.
Hmm. And what stands out for me, thank you for that. That there's a lot in that. What stands out for me is the fact that your friend groups kind of disappeared. Um, it's kind of like people have to choose. They're like, oh, which person am I going to be friends with now? They decide that, they have to make a choice, and they are not going to be friends with both of you. So yeah, you often lose that whole system of what you thought was a system of support.
Mhm.
So can you talk about that? Like, what do you do if your friend group, or the people that you thought you were close to beyond your partner, just kind of fade out?
Yes, I think it's one of the unexpected side effects of a relationship ending. And like I said,
Mm.
that's why it's a huge life transition that we need support with. For me, it was a little bit of a different situation. The friends we had a huge friend group, and they wanted to be my friend. They wanted to support me, but they also remained friends with the person I used to be in relationship with. And for
Mm.
my heart, that did not feel supportive. It felt
Mhm.
very excruciating. It felt a lot of unfairness. It felt so many things at that time that
Mhm.
I just decided it's not supportive for me to remain in these friendships. So I had to step away for my own healing. And that was something that was unexpected. And I found myself feeling alone with going through heartbreak with no support essentially for uh, quite a significant time of that journey. And then eventually I connected with some beautiful people that definitely supported me throughout the rest of my journey. But in the initial months, it was very, very dark, and it felt very lonely. And
Mhm.
that is one of the things that I decided I wanted to help women with, because we shouldn't have to go through it alone.
Yeah.
It's not we're built for community. And so
Mhm.
when our heart is feeling the most tender is when we absolutely do not need to be alone. And so that's why I also support women.
Yeah. And that's a lot of part of the reason why a lot of people stay in relationships that don't serve them anymore is that they're like, "Well, I'm gonna be alone and I'm gonna be lonely if I leave this person."
Mhm.
Um, so they stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many reasons. I feel like also society has conditioned us to fear being with ourselves, because I definitely think that there's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yeah.
And throughout my journey of healing, the initial phases, I did feel lonely. And as I continued to heal and continue to deepen into my relationship with myself and feel at home within myself, I realized that there's this beautiful saying in one of my absolute favorite books, Women Who Run with the Wolves by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. There is a saying in many ancient communities and villages that there aren't any words for alone.
Hmm.
Alone simply means all one. So
Mm.
you're all one with yourself. And that's kind of the thought process that I began to take on as I became a friend to myself. I
Mhm.
became all one with myself. And so even when there weren't a lot of friends around, I realized that that was a period of deep hibernation for me, and it was
Mhm.
necessary. But I
Mhm.
feel like our society doesn't always make that season of our life okay.
Mm.
And we feel shame and embarrassment for not having people around, not having people texting us, not having a friend group per se. And so sometimes we can feel apprehensive to lean into that season that sometimes inevitably comes after a relationship ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of grief when a relationship ends. And so you spend a lot of time going through that. How do
Mhm.
you know how long? Like, how, you know what I mean? Like, how do you know when you've grieved enough? Like, what are the signs that you've grieved, that you've gone through the process and you've grieved enough? And like, how do you know?
Yeah, I feel like that's such a like that's like the number one question for women. Is like, how long is it gonna take for
Hmm.
me to heal my heart? And I feel like the answer is different for everyone. I feel as though there's so many pieces. I want to just make sure I tune into all of them. Hang on one second. I feel like there's no set time frame. There's literally no set time frame. So I think eradicating that notion from our mindset is going to be the first helpful thing, because when we put time and limitations on it, we get into the thought process of I should be here, I should be further
Hmm.
along. And when we're not, that creates shame and guilt and frustration, and honestly prolongs the entire healing process and creates a lot of unnecessary suffering. So that's number one. And then the second thing is when you can be at peace with the process, and just accept that the grieving process is a very fluid, non-linear journey that you just have to surrender to. I feel like that creates a lot of opening for you to accept the journey of grief for what it is. And I feel like when you are in a space where you can think about the relationship and you no longer feel like a sting or pains or little twitches in your heart. I feel like that's another beautiful indicator that you've released a lot of that energy, that you've let go of some of that pain and move forward. Because there was definitely times where I thought that I would never stop thinking about my ex and all of that
Mhm.
good stuff. And now I'm at a place where I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was in a relationship with that person. Like,
Right. I remember you.
yeah, like, oh yeah, that was in my past. Oh, okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think those are some of the indicators
Mhm.
of when you just like feel so much peace within your life and in your body and in where you are within your journey. I feel like
Mhm.
that's a beautiful indication that you've released a lot of the pain from the past relationship.
Mhm. So, when you're working with women who are going through a breakup or have heartbreak, what are some of the things that you see them doing that are not helpful to them? Like we know that you're not supposed to follow your ex on social media and things like that. Like what kinds of things are not helpful?
Hmm. I feel like women are conditioned to do this, but the things that I see is a lot of self-blame,
Mm,
a lot of if only, I should have, why didn't I could have made it work. It could have been different. So a lot of blaming of themselves after a relationship ends, thinking that it was their fault or they could have somehow changed the outcome of it. And when we're in a space of blaming ourselves, it kind of like holds us hostage to that moment. It just like keeps us stuck and we're not able to see the bigger picture and all the other aspects of the relationship and all of the other things that were at play, which also hinders our ability to move forward. So I think a lot of self blame
mm,
is one of the things. And also, um, how do I want to word this? Like this notion that love doesn't exist outside that person. And so
mm,
feeling like that was the last of it forever.
mm,
And it's totally okay and normal and valid to feel obviously grief for that love that existed. But when we can open ourselves up to possibilities that love is infinite, love is all around, there's so many aligned partners that we can connect with in a
mm,
lifetime. And it's not just one person. I think that that definitely helps to not take away the pain, but lessen the pain when we feel like all the love that we could ever receive lived in this one person.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I love your energy. You're so thoughtful and like so patient and calm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it must be really a blessing for women to work with you because you have that like kind, helpful energy. Yeah, that's
Thank
lovely.
you. I fully received that.
Good. So yeah, I am personally, I'm 10 years, 10 plus years out of divorce.
Mhm,
It was not fun. It
mhm,
was very difficult.
mhm,
But one thing I did, what was kind of at the time, it was out of character for me, which
mhm,
I reached out almost immediately. I reached out to my friends. I reached out to my family. I reached out to, um, strangers on the internet, and I found a group of divorcing women
mhm,
in my local area, and that made all the difference. Like just the
mhm,
process of reaching out and not sort of shrinking in, not I had plenty of time by myself, plenty of time of self-reflection, but I also really made the effort to find community
mhm,
and get the support from the people that I already had in my life. And so as not to stress them out and bore them with my story, find people who are also kind of, going through it and needed a shoulder too. So can you talk about community in this time, in the breakup time?
Yes. I first off, I absolutely love that you did that and the fact that you said it was out of character for you,
Mhm.
but like your heart just knew it needed that kind of support. And so it kind of just bypassed was habit
Mhm.
and reached out to support. I absolutely love that you did that
Mhm.
for yourself. And I feel like that's a beautiful way to advocate for yourself, which is something that I definitely teach the women that I support. Like, reach out, connect to support. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's exactly what you said, connecting to people who understand, who get it. I feel like, again, because society doesn't necessarily understand grief, or doesn't understand grief, doesn't want to look at grief, doesn't want to sit with grief.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we're healing, we can feel like, okay, like you said, we've bored and exhausted our friend group with the what we're going through. And one of the things that I experienced was when the breakup first happened, everyone was reaching out to me, which felt supportive. And then a couple of weeks after that, it felt as if everyone went on with their life. Meanwhile, I'm still sitting here with this deep pain in my heart
Mhm.
that I did not know how to move forward. And I felt the sense of like, I can't reach out. They don't want to hear about it anymore. They've already heard about it. They've already sat and listened to me cry. And so I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people feel like that after a relationship ends, and so then they bottle their emotions, they keep it to themselves, they suppress it, they stuff it down, and they try to get
Mhm.
on with life as normal. And it's just not what the moment is asking for when you're experiencing that level of pain or emotional grief that just needs to be processed. And so, to your point, this is why community is so important. When you can surround yourself with people who will hold you while you cry, and who will uplift you in the moments where you don't think you'll ever love again, where you're doubting yourself. Sometimes your confidence can take a hit after a relationship ends, and your self-esteem and all of these things. So people who can support you and hold you and see the beauty in you even when you feel like there is none in that moment,
Mhm.
is so deeply important. And it's one of my favorite things, to be able to cultivate spaces for women to come
Mhm.
together, to feel that level of support when they're
Mhm.
going through these deep, intense moments.
Yeah, so talk about the work that you do. Talk about what how you help women, what you do specifically.
Yes. So I support women through one-on-one, and then I also do retreats. So I have a retreat coming up, and I'm super excited about it. But I will speak first to the one-on-one session. So for me, I do believe that healing does happen in community, and I also think that it is so important to take time to um, kind of get your, for lack of better words, get your footing. So when your heart is like freshly going through a transition, when your relationship ends, I find for me that it was super supportive to have a lot of one-on-one time, a lot of one-on-one guidance. And so
Mhm.
that's what I offer women through my VIP days. And VIP days, it is a 5 hour, sorry, deep dive into so many different beautiful modalities like energy healing, breath work, heart journeying. And it really is just to support them in, like I said, getting their footing during the initial phases of the breakup. And then from there, I have a container of one on one coaching that extends for several months to just help them acclimate to the journey that they're on, the journey of healing.
Mhm.
And I support women through one on one coaching and guidance and mentorship after the initial VIP day. And
Mhm.
then I also do retreats. And so, like I said, I have one coming up here in LA this October called the Origins of Love Retreat.
Mm. That sounds like radical self-care to me.
It is. It's
Yeah.
honestly, kind of going back to your community piece. I
Mhm.
know when a couple of months after I experienced heartbreak, I connected with a coach. I'd never worked with her one on one before, but I saw she was having, I was in Atlanta at the time. I lived in Atlanta at the time. Now I live in
Mhm.
LA.
Mhm.
And I saw that she was having a retreat in Sacramento, California. I had never connected with any of her work, but I was like, hey, there's a bunch of women there. I feel like my heart needs to be supported. So I went to that retreat, and the amount of healing I experienced was so profound. And so ever since then, I just like always was very intentional to surround myself with beautiful hearted women who felt very aligned with me, and
Mhm.
connecting to women and pouring into my friendships with women was a very profound part of my healing. And so that's why I love retreats and I love creating spaces for women to do the same on their journey.
That sounds incredible. Just incredible. Like the 5-hour one-on-one session where you can just let it out
Mhm.
and get support in different ways sounds it sounds really beautiful.
Thank you.
I would love that. My heart is whole right now, but
Oh, I
good to
love
know it's there.
yes. I
Yeah.
thought of like what would feel like a just like a big hug and
Mhm.
for your heart. And so that's how those offerings were birthed.
Nice. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. That's my retreat partner.
Hello, Kathy.
Yeah, so maybe I'm wondering, so a lot of people are hear a lot of talk about having a broken picker. Like people don't know, I guess they know they picked wrong in the past, but they don't know how to pick right in the future. Um, is there such thing as a broken picker? And if so, how do you fix it?
I love that question. I don't think it's broken per se. I think that hmm, we based off our upbringing and the way that we viewed love, the way that we viewed partnership, connection, intimacy, safety, and all of these things, which is oftentimes formed by our relationship to our family dynamics or our caregivers and things like that. So it starts very early. And based off those experiences, that influences who we choose for partnership because we choose what's familiar to our nervous system. We choose what feels safe to our body. And if we only have seen relationships where it was inconsistent attachment styles that didn't feel supportive and nourishing and secure. If we felt that we always had to vie for our parents' attention and their love, that's going to trickle into the way that we choose our partners. And then we're going to choose partners that we feel like we have to chase and prove our love and our worth. Or if, you know, if we learn that love is inconsistent and not always present and not always something that I can relax into and feel safe around and feel securely attached to, then we often can choose partners that are unavailable, that won't give their full love to us in a myriad of ways. And so I feel like these are
Stop talking about me.
the and the beauty is like once we know it,
Yeah.
we can do what's necessary to heal these core wounds and choose more aligned partners. So these are
Mhm.
the things that influences the way that we select our partners, and it's so subconscious and
Mm,
it's
yeah.
so like deeply ingrained in the like our upbringings, our relationship templates as I call it. Um, and so it influences who we select when we're older. And then so that's
Mhm.
how we can be like, wait, all of these partners are the same. They all were unavailable. They all da 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 da. All of these things. Well, these are patterns, and these are the ways that you, on a deeper level, it reveals what you feel about love, what you feel about connection, what you feel about intimacy, the beliefs that are there. And once you uproot that, you can replace them with more aligned beliefs and thought forms and templates that actually will allow you to connect to the partners that will treat you well, that does want to honor you and be committed and faithful, all of the things, whatever it is your heart desires.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I yeah. So you said in one of your videos, you asked, "What does trust feel like in your body?"
Mhm.
Can you talk about that? How do I feel trust? How do I know what is how do I do that?
Yes, I feel like our relationship to our body, like our body holds so much wisdom. And sometimes we can find ourselves disconnected from our body. Just the way that society operates, fast, 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 go, 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 never time to slow down. That's one way we stay disconnected from our bodies. But our body is a very beautiful compass of just everything. I actually do utilize my body to like make decisions. It's a very beautiful process. But connecting to our bodies, in connecting to our bodies, we're able to connect to the innate wisdom that we hold, our intuition, and all of those beautiful things. And so when we're connected to our body, we can relax into safety. And when we feel safe within our body, we're more able to attune to safety in relationships. But if we don't feel safe within our body, if I'm not breathing deeply, if I'm not connected to the wisdom, if I'm somewhere and my body is feeling weird and I'm not tuning into that, that's guidance for me to, maybe I should be more mindful of my surroundings, or maybe it's time for me to go home, or just whatever it is. Our body just holds that kind of wisdom. And if we're not attuned to that, if we don't feel safe within our own body, it's difficult for us to feel safety in the presence or in a connection with another. And when safety isn't there, there's no solid ground for the relationship to actually be cultivated deeply or to flourish.
Right.
So that's why it's important to cultivate safety within your body first and know what it feels like. Does it feel like a deep relaxing, or are you always holding your breath up high? Like, so kind of feeling into these things so you become familiar with what it feels like for safety to live and be in your body.
So give me an example of how I could feel it. Like where would I feel it?
Um, I think for me, I think the most helpful way is when to know if you feel safe within your body. For me, I used to deal with anxiety all the time when I was younger. Like, I just thought it was a forever thing. And through healing and moving that energy from my body and learning to trust myself, I no longer feel anxious. Or when I do have moments where I feel anxious, I can feel it in my body. And so it feels like, my stomach is feeling tight. It feels like just like antsiness and frantic energy. And the opposite of that for me, I feel like, is safety within my body, is calmness, is peace. So when I'm sitting and instead of feeling antsy, I feel like, it just kind of feels like an exhale. You're breathing deeply.
Mm.
Which breathing, a lot of times we don't breathe deeply. We breathe very shallow. Um,
Yeah.
and so if you notice that your belly is actually rising when you're breathing, um, if you can feel your feet on the floor, or wherever you're sitting, if you can feel what's beneath you, that's one way where you bring your awareness to your body and you can notice the different sensations you feel. And that is one way to cultivate safety within your body, and know what it feels like. It's just
Mm.
like a
Mhm.
peacefulness that you can feel.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Body awareness. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if I were feeling heartbreak, my
Mm,
I always have this like heavy feeling literally in my chest and also kind of in like my solar plexus, really like tight,
yeah.
heavy. That's the heartbreak feeling.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't like I'm trying to locate a trust feeling in my body and I don't know. Is it when you're with someone and you feel trust in them or you feel just trust with yourself?
It first starts with you. It first starts with you. So I would say, maybe if you, not you per se, but maybe if a person isn't quite able to locate it within their body first, to do some exploration of, what do I think about trust? Like, what does trust mean to me? What is the definition of trust? Because I think that that's a beautiful, trust and safety is beautiful. They go hand in hand. I trust myself like 1,000%, which I did not used to do.
Mm.
I was like, I made horrible decisions. I dated ridiculous people, like all of the things. And so
Mhm.
I did not always used to trust myself, but now, because I'm so connected to my intuition and I'm also connected to my body, there's this deep self trust that I have. And so,
Mm.
for me, that relaxing sensation is just me knowing that
Mhm.
I got my back.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's not always like a physical sensation that I can pinpoint. It's more
Mhm.
like an energetic knowing of, I got my back. And so when you can cultivate deep trust within yourself, you also cultivate safety. which is just generally a knowing of no matter what comes through in life, I got my back. I know that I can meet any moment and I'm going to make it through to the other side of whatever that moment brings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, being in a relationship, it entails a lot of compromise,
Mhm.
um, and it's easy to lose yourself, sort of lose what do I want? What do I need? If you're compromising all the time, or you're, you know, giving up certain things.
Mhm.
After a while, I remember at the end of relationships in the past, it's been like, what do I even like? What do I
Mhm.
even want? Like what
Who am I?
where like who am I now? You know? So
Yeah.
how do you find out what you want, what you like if you're in that point when you've compromised so much that you're lost?
Mhm. I love that question. That's definitely something that I experienced in previous relationship. I just like merged so much with the person that I was with that when it ended, I'm like, who am I? What do I like? What's fun for me? Like, what is my life about now that it's no
Mhm.
longer about this relationship? And one of the things I think is so, so important that again, it's not always taught by society or something that is a focal point is making sure that you have your life outside of your relationship. That is going to be the number one way that even with compromises, even with the different things that you navigate within your relationship, when you have things that fill you up outside of your relationship and or in addition to your relationship, you always have a space to come back to. You always have a space that's yours, and it really helps you to stay embodied and empowered while you're also in that relationship. So having friends outside of the relationship, doing things on your own without your partner, whatever that is, like your hobbies, you're just going for a walk. So just making sure that you spend time with yourself and with people that you love and who love you outside of the relationship is really going to help you stay embodied and empowered, and not just merge with
Yeah.
your partner.
Yeah. Because we all know that person who, you see them all the time, you're hanging out, and then as soon as they're in a relationship, they're like,
You never see him again until
oh,
the relationship is over and they're like, hey, y'all. And it's like,
right,
where have you been for the past year?
right. Yes.
Yeah, and that friend gets a lot of flack. So to not be that friend, make sure you
Mhm.
stay connected to your friends. And there's all of course the natural honeymoon phase and but just
Mm.
um it's very important to prioritize relationships and connections outside of the relationship.
Yeah. I'm jumping around a little bit, but I do have a question about like closure and how people are like if it does end abruptly
Mhm.
and the person disappears or whatever, like, you're like, well, what happened? And I want to know, and why? Why did this happen? And why? Like, what do you do with the whys and the wanting closure?
That's a beautiful question. It's a question a lot of people have, and I had myself in the relationship ended. I was like, I have so many questions. You need to
Right.
answer all of them. And what I found in my personal experience is that it didn't actually support my heart to get all of those questions answered, and I found that that was just my mind's way of trying to process the information and
Mhm.
or try to process the new reality that I was living.
Mhm.
And um, it didn't serve me well to try to get those questions answered. It just led to deeper heartbreak
Mm.
for me
Mhm.
personally. And I know everyone experiences are different. But I want to say when we one of the things that one of my teachers says is what are you going to do if you know that the person would never change. And so when it comes to closure, what are you going to do if you never get that? Are you just going to hold on to where you're feeling what you're feeling in that moment of I can't move on until they give me the answers I need. I can't move on until they let me know why. Or are you going to say, okay, thank you for showing me the reality of this situation. Now let me go within and do what I need to do for me and my heart. And so I look at closure like that. Sometimes it's a lot of putting the responsibility on the other person to give us something that we need. But when we take back our power and come into a space of saying, it doesn't matter what you do or don't do, I'm going to do me and I'm going to heal for me, then I think that's the most important thing that we can do when a relationship ends as far as closure. So yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. If anybody who is watching has any questions, please pop them in the chat. And what else do I want to ask you? I really want to hear about your retreat a little bit more. Like, what kinds of things could people expect if they're going on that retreat?
Oh, yes, I love that. So it's actually kind of going back to what we spoke about when you asked about, do we have broken pickers?
Mm.
And so the retreat's called Origins of Love. And so it's giving us the opportunity to look into our relationship template. So looking into the way we show up in relationship, what we learned about relationship, the subtle and subconscious things that we may have picked up, and looking at how, yes, our patterns, habits, tendencies, identities, beliefs, all the things regarding love, relationships, and intimacy and connection. And so we're going to be deep diving into all of that, exploring and uprooting all of the things that is no longer supportive or aligned and congruent with the actual kinds of relationships and love that we want to experience. And then from there, after we're releasing all of that no longer serves us, we're going to be creating some new, beautiful love declarations. And so basically that's updating our relationship templates to match what it is that our heart actually wants in this current moment, so that we can cultivate that and call that in. And so that's the work of what we're doing at the retreat. But there's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of play, gourmet chef making us beautiful lunch. It's going to be here in LA, beautiful private residence, completely filled by nature. And so it's going to be a beautiful, intimate day of women coming together, doing some deep healing, but also having a lot of fun in the process. So I'm super excited about it.
That sounds delightful. It sounds really nice. If anybody is on the West Coast and has a broken heart, that sounds like a really lovely experience.
Thank you.
Yes, I would be remiss if I did not mention that I'm also hosting a retreat in October. Mine in Mexico City. It's for Black women over 40 who are looking to have a little exploration and rest and connection with other Black women. And we're going to be exploring the city and having delicious food, going to the pyramids. And just hanging out, having a good time and resting. So I will, I'll have descriptions and links to your retreat in the description. I don't think I put it in there yet, but I will link to your retreat and a link to my retreat in the description so folks can find out more.
Yes. A lot of fun things this October. So
yeah.
if you're looking for community, like we mentioned, that would be beautiful to connect to both of our retreats.
Yes. Something good to look forward to. You guys don't have the cold weather, but we get the cold weather. So we need something to get us as the winter comes.
I definitely hear that. LA gets a little chilly, but yeah, definitely nowhere near nowhere near what the East Coast gets. I'm from the East Coast, so I know.
That. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to mention or?
Anything? Well, if anyone feels resident, if they are moving through heartbreak and they are in need of beautiful support, or they know another beautiful woman who could utilize this support, you can feel free to connect with me on Instagram at the Heartbreak Doula. And that's also my YouTube channel where I offer weekly support as well. And
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned for more loveliness. And please get in touch with Tatiana if her work sings to you.
Yes,
I think she'd be a wonderful resource for someone going through a heartbreak.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Kat. This was so lovely.
Yes. Bye. All. Thanks, Kathy. Bye. Mhm.